Is San Diego Comic-Con dead? Will it ever be the same? Is this just a temporary flux? We're going to read an article on Bounding into Comics about San Diego Comic-Con. Now, let me say this. You know that I try to keep my videos as positive as I possibly can. And it's been a struggle because I have been sifting through articles, reading different things, trying to look up what comic books are coming up in the mainstream from the mainstream comic houses that might interest me that, I can cover. And also looking into some independent comics that I'm going to cover some more. I just need to gather some more information about some of these entities because I don't know much about them. So thus, I don't have very much to say. But as a comic book reader, been reading comics since I was 13 years old, I know enough about the big content houses to comment on some of the things they have coming out. But a lot of it is not exciting. It's just not. I mean, outside of the Ripperverse, and I know this seems like a cop-out and it seems like I'm a cheerleader, but I am. I think the Ripperverse is doing something great. I think this is a great opportunity for something new like this to come about and really excite the comic book space. So, in an effort to try to stay positive and try to put out some good content, some videos that you may enjoy, because I don't want to be one of these complaint channels. I watch and I follow some of these complaint channels, but I realize after you hear so much complaining, you just kind of get down and it's like, man, is there anything positive happening? And there are positive things going on. So I'm trying to structure my channel to do something different, to comment on some things I enjoy rather than focusing on all the things I don't like about the comic book space right now. But don't get it twisted. This does not mean I'm going to turn a blind eye to the things that I see going on, not in just the comic book space, the geek space in general, that is a sort of cancer that has tried to take over the geek space, but the geek space is now fighting back. And I think you see that happening. Anyway, we're going to get to this article from Bounding into Comics. And this article was written by John Delaraz, who I want to give a shout out to. He followed my channel, actually put a comment on one of my videos. I can't remember which video it was. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even know my small channel made the radar of somebody like this. So I definitely appreciate that. Thank you, bro. Shout out to you. Appreciate it. Okay, so he wrote this article, San Diego Comic-Con's preview night felt empty without the Hollywood hype. San Diego Comic-Con's annual preview night seemed lackluster compared to prior years at the convention. While many of the vendors had their exclusives, such as special edition Star Wars Inquisitor, Rise of the Red Blade novel with the exclusive variant cover and pin from Penguin Random House, and a beautiful Batman figurine from Todd McFarlane Toys. The lines were shorter than usual all around the convention floor. I've never been to San Diego Comic-Con. I always wanted to go. I was going to go a few years ago, and, because I've never gone, I didn't realize that you really had to get these tickets well in advance. So yeah, there's no way I was going to be able to go. Okay. Many of the more lucrative exclusive toys sold out for preview night within the first hour, but the books were readily available at comic tables. Now, there could be several reasons for this. Maybe the Hollywood crowd not being there didn't generate as much of a draw and as much of an excitement, because when people get excited, they just do stuff. So maybe that was part of it. And maybe it's that, when I walk into a comic book store now, I'm not going to lie, it's few and far between. I don't buy very many comic books. And it's funny because if Kid Me could see me now, right? I didn't have a job when I was that age. I had to scrounge up change and get comic books whenever I could, and I wanted to buy everything I saw in a comic book store when I was younger. Now I have the money to buy the comic books I want, and I walk into the comic book store and I might walk out with one. I just don't find much that I enjoy. Now, it's not that there's not much out there. I just, life, busy, grown man with a job. My job is not YouTube. It would be nice if my channel was monetized and I can make money off of this. I mean, that's a possibility, but uh, I'm not gonna say not likely. But right now, I don't know if that's in the cards. Anyway, maybe that same lack of excitement is felt by other comic book fans. Like they just don't see many things that they like and want to read. I mean, that's a possibility. It's possible that that's the thing. Image Comics offered an exclusive dust jacket for Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips' new Night Fever graphic novel and a special holofoil version of the Charles Soule's 8 Billion Genies. Both books were readily available even by the end of the night. And it may be a lack of excitement because comic books just have not, it's almost like, I don't want to say the 90s was the golden era of comics, the early 90s. Maybe the late 80s and early 90s was. I mean, I don't know. I know people classify different comics ages, however they classify. It's kind of subjective, but I get it. I guess they're calling this the Bronze Age. Comics artists and publishers were tentative but optimistic about the show because of the Hollywood writers and actors strike, which canceled many of the more popular panels at the last minute. The studios are still running trailers and screenings of their shows, such as Warner Brothers' Babylon 5, The Road Home animated film, but none of the talent is there to promote the programs. Now, here is where I see the silver lining. This is the problem with major content houses that are not controlled by geeks. Now, this may change. Like I said, I like to focus on, let's say, positive possibilities. So is it possible that Marvel, DC, Disney, with all the things they control, is it possible for all of these companies to collapse? Yes. They're not invincible. I don't think they will, but they're not invincible. That's possible. But here's a positive possibility. There's somebody coming up right now through the ranks who's an actual geek, who loves comics, that sees the direction these companies have taken some of their favorite characters, and they've decided, you know what? I'm not going to sit on my laurels. I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to come up through the ranks however I can, get in a position where I can affect change in a good way, where I can take these companies that have gone off course and offer them a compass and say, yo, I don't know how you ended up where you're at now, but here's a compass and here's how you get back to that road that was leading you to your ultimate destination. I think that's a possibility. Here's the second thing. I think San Diego Comic-Con at this moment needs to take this opportunity to heavily focus on, for the next few years, independent creators to be the headliners at Comic-Con for this reason. I think you have less of a possibility to be abandoned short notice with independent content creators being the bulk of what's celebrated at Comic-Con. I'm not saying you shun the major content houses. I'm just saying don't make them the focal point, because if they're not the focal point, then yeah, people are going to be bummed out. Oh, I'm kind of bummed out they're not here. But yo, this independent creator that I love, they're going to be there. And I think if it's more balanced and especially more geared toward that, then you'll have more consistency. That's just my humble opinion. And I think it's a possibility for that to happen. I believe Eric July is at San Diego Comic-Con at Gabe El Taib's booth. Gabe El Taib colored I Some Number One and did a great job, by the way. We're all sort of anxiously waiting to find out how the writer's strike affects those of us on the floor. Wrath of God creator Aaron Lopresti, excuse me, told Bounding Into Comics. Yo, I can imagine if your life is built around this geek space and these big entities control the geek space for so long for financial reasons, but I'm not necessarily mad at them for being financially motivated. They saw an opportunity to make a lot of money and they took it. I'm not upset at that at all in the least. But the problem is what they thought is they could do whatever they wanted. They could do no wrong and geeks would just support whatever they did. And that's not the case. Whatever the viewpoints are of CEOs of companies, these big content houses, that's one thing. People believe what they believe. But when you put woke nonsense into comic books, and when I say woke nonsense, let's be very specific. When you focus on things that have nothing to do with building the character and telling a compelling story, we of the geek delegation don't care. I don't care about how many genders you think there is. I don't care if you want this character to be gay, if you want this character to marry that character. Me personally, I don't want any of that stuff in my books. I just want a good story where a hero figures some things out, has an epic battle with the bad guys, and saves the people. That's it. That, like, really and truly, that's actually kind of simple. I think you see in independent creations this thing being heralded again, but it's not being, this is not the champion strategy of the big content houses, which I think is why they've been struggling lately in the box office and to attract new eyeballs. I would like to see Comic-Con go back to its roots, said Ben Dunn, Antarctic Press Publishers and Ninja High School's creator. But it is a testament to Comic-Con that it can attract a huge crowd. Studios seem to have been dialing back their experience moves as well, with very few options for fans to take photos to get some involvement with their favorite movies and shows. One of the highlights was Paramount Plus's Star Trek Strange New World, which allowed fans to film their own trailers in a captain's chair setting with the backdrop of an alien planet. That's actually pretty dope. I got a cool story that this made me think of. So when Galaxy's Edge opened in Disney World Orlando, I happened to be in Orlando visiting with my son, and what happened? I think I went to some Hilton hotel somewhere, and so I got a couple free nights, and they also gave me a discount on Disney tickets. I just had to view their presentation for their Hilton Resort package or whatever, trying to sell me timeshares. I care nothing about that. But we went to Galaxy's Edge opening day. Oh my goodness. Let me tell you, when you walk through that tunnel and come out the other side on Galaxy's Edge, I really felt like I was in Tatooine. If kid me could see grown man me in that moment, I would have flipped. It was excellent. And speaking of which, foot traffic at Disney has been down. I think there's two possible reasons for this. One, people are really not rocking with Disney trying to push agendas that none of us support nor care about. I'd say probably a huge bulk of Disney's fans. That's one thing. The second thing, Disney tickets are ridiculously priced. I'm talking stupid. Like, as much as I love Galaxy's Edge, I have no desire to buy Disney tickets. None. When you have to pay almost $200 per person, that is horrendous. This is what I say. Disney's struggling. Here's a strategy. Now, what I'm getting ready to say will never reach anyone at Disney. My channel's not big. I don't have a huge audience. There's no conceivable way that this comes across the desk of anyone who matters at Disney. But if Disney were, now they would probably, in no world would they probably ever do this. They could test this. If Disney said for 1 week, we're going to make all of our tickets, even park hopper tickets, $70. I think Disney foot traffic would sextuple overnight. And they would see, okay, so one of our biggest problems is these ticket prices are just well north of what people's pockets can take, especially in the economy we're in right now. Those ticket prices are stupid. Like they are ridiculous. I don't know who thinks this is a good idea. Anyway, this Star Trek story made me think about that. Despite the positivity from the artists, attendance looked sparse for preview night compared to years past. The aisleways were far less jammed than usual. The people could walk with ease, which is good for attendees, but at the same time, Comic-Con is infamous for having pedestrian traffic jams be nearly inescapable. On the alternative media front, YouTubers Nerdrotic and Eric July are attending the convention along with comic artist Sergio Carrillo, The Action Bible, and Mike S. Miller, Lone Star, Shadow of the Conqueror. With Hollywood out of the picture, conventions will need to start appealing to new media alternatives to not be so reliant on the corporate publishers of the past. John, I agree with you 100%. And I honestly believe that is the way to go, in my humble opinion. Is that going to happen? I don't know. Does San Diego Comic-Con care? I don't know. Do they want this thing to go away? I don't know. I can't say. I would imagine no. Something like this that generates the amount of foot traffic and money that it probably does for that city. I think this is probably something they want to continue. I think if they want it to continue, I think there's several concessions that need to be made. And one of those concessions is people who are not necessarily geeks that have found great opportunity making money in the geek space need to realize what geeks want. Listen when the geeks speak. Don't mess with the things that we grew up on and that we love. We will give you our money as long as you follow that rule. A lot of these big content houses cannot seem to understand that. You know what? I am baffled at the consistency of bad ideas from these huge content houses. Because in my mind, I'm like, okay, how much money do you have to lose before you realize maybe we are doing something wrong? I do not understand for the life of me. But is San Diego Comic-Con dead? Or is it due for a revival?